Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Family Sedan channel. Got two topics to discuss with you. First, I want to share with you some thoughts from attorney Jeremy Hogan, and he's talking about FTX promoters getting sued, which I don't know about you guys, but on the surface, at a minimum, I question that, and it sounds a bit off. I mean, unless there's actual evidence that, you know, they knowingly did something incorrect. If somebody is being a spokesperson or they're in a commercial or something like that for a firm and the firm happens to be fraudulent, it doesn't seem to be the spokesperson's or actor's fault, whatever it may be. Just on the surface. Now, if there's an exception, they actually were somehow complicit or this, that's different. But I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying if they're just doing some advertising. And then also attorney Deaton says that Kim Gensler is either corrupt or incompetent. Kind of hard to tell which. Well, actually, I think that it's really more so corruption. That's just my personal opinion. But it's interesting because I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but Gary Gensler, a couple things. He was before being SEC chair, over a decade ago, he was the chair of the CFTC, Commodities Futures Trading Commission, and as CFTC. There was a firm called MF Global, which just absolutely blew up. It was a financial company, but I think they engaged in like foreign exchange. And ultimately, they became insolvent, and there were charges that they were using customer funds, kind of like FTX has done, in their case. And Gary Gensler was looking over that at the time, and just another collapse. These things keep happening. And there were accusations back then. It's very clear, even as he's running the CFTC, he's looking out for himself. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I am not offering legal or financial advice. And you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And so here's what attorney Hogan has to say. Question: what do Tom Brady, Shaq, and Naomi Osaka all have in common? Answer: they are athletes, right? No, they have all just been sued for promoting FTX. The lawsuit is a class action lawsuit filed by one plaintiff, and which will likely be joined by thousands of plaintiffs shortly. But why are the athletes and endorsers being sued? Well, we all know that FTX filed bankruptcy, so the lawyers are searching for deep pockets. Yeah, I'll just pause to say here, this is my personal opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. We can respectfully disagree, but it looks like a money grab. It's just like you can smell the blood in the water, and they're just, let's just sue everyone that we think we can get money from, just the deep pockets. That's what it looks like to me here. And then attorney Hogan says, but how can the endorsers be sued? Well, the complaint alleges a civil conspiracy, meaning that all the defendants worked together to misrepresent the safety of the exchange. The lawsuit also alleges that the defendants sold unregistered securities. The bad news for the defendants is that the lawsuit is very well drafted. The very first page of the lawsuit starts off with Sam Bankman-Fried's tweet, "I'm sorry, I effed up." And it's on the screen there. He did tweet that out. And I remember when he was saying this stuff, I'm just thinking, do you have a lawyer? And if not, why not? If so, why are you not taking his advice? Because presumably the advice would be, shut the hell up, Sam. But there he is. I'm sorry, that's the biggest thing. I effed up and should have done better. That's what he says. He literally tweeted that out. And then attorney Hogan says, my YouTube channel, especially last year, often received solicitations to promote a company. Sometimes these offers are for tens of thousands of dollars. I always tell them no thanks, except for that promo I did for Corona beer that one time. Am I liable for underage drinking? The defendants will argue they could not have been in a conspiracy when they were unaware of any unlawful activity. It's a strong defense. But there may be causes of action for which knowledge of wrongdoing is not required, like failing to disclose you were a paid promoter. If this case is successful, with the crypto market in the tank, look for more creative lawsuits like this one against promoters. And if you are a promoter, it might be time to be very careful about who you promote. And always remember my saying, if you screw up, shut up. That sounds like sage wisdom right there at the end. If you screw up, yeah, just shut the hell up. You're not gonna do yourself any favors continuing to speak. And that's what, also me too. Like, I've never had any paid sponsors whatsoever. And there are reasons for that. I mean, there's the liability is a gigantic one though. Like you know how many projects have approached me about advertising their coins? I'm just sitting there like, oh, I know I could have been raking in the money, especially over the last few years. But I'm just like, nope, because there could be legal implications. You know, there could be federal regulators coming after me. It's like, I don't need none of that. I'm just going to not do that. And I haven't had any promoters even for more innocuous things. I've had, there was at least one exchange that wanted me to promote them, and nothing against them. Maybe they're perfectly fine. But I'd rather just keep my lips sealed personally here. And again, I'm not against, you know, YouTubers, even in the world of crypto, having paid sponsors. It's perfectly reasonable in many cases. I mean, maybe not so much for getting paid to promote coins. That seems a little bit, that's really not my flavor, if you know what I'm saying here. And maybe at some point in the future, I'll have a paid sponsor. I'm not like saying I'm 100% against it, but if it's for something like promoting a coin or an exchange, I'm kind of like, yeah, but if things go wrong, even if I'm not doing anything legally wrong, there can still be assertions. It's the same reason I like pretty much never share audio or video that's not my own in a video. I know I'm allowed to play clips, but I don't even want anybody to have the opportunity to assert that I did something wrong. I don't need that kind of drama in my life. You know what I'm saying? So that's just the kind of way that I look at it anyway. So I get where Jeremy Hogan's coming from. Now, there is this article from Financial Times shared by John Deaton's crypto law organization. It's titled "U.S. Watchdogs Play Blame Game Over FTX Demise." And Crypto Law wrote here, Gary Gensler's SEC, quote, has focused on headline-grabbing enforcement actions such as charging Kim Kardashian for illegally touting crypto rather than tackling systemic risk in the market, end quote. And that's exactly right. And I want to highlight this before getting into Attorney Deaton's comments because it's worth being aware of this. This article is from May 21st, 2013 from Reuters. And MF Global, who John Deaton references, MF Global was founded in 2007 and went out of business in 2011. There's financial fallout. Again, the assertions of using customer funds to deal with insolvency because they had that liquidity crisis. That's just a fancy way to say they're insolvent. That's what that means. There was a piece here. I don't want to read the whole article, but there was a part of it down here if I can find it real quick. Oh yeah, right here. So Gary Gensler, he was in charge of, he was the chair of the CFTC at the time this went down. And the piece, by the way, is titled "U.S. CFTC Watchdog Faults Gensler for Recusal from MF Global Probe." So the assertion being that Gensler wasn't sufficiently doing his job. Sound familiar? Just never works for him. And so there's this quote, and I'm just like, it sounds like something that would be said about Gensler today running the SEC, especially with the FTX fiasco. And here's the quote. "I continue to question whether Chairman Gensler was more concerned about protecting customers' accounts or protecting himself from accountability," Richard Shelby, who previously served as ranking member of the Senate Banking Committee, said in a statement. Sound like the type of critiques that were being lobbied at him today? Might it be because he's actually not doing things right and it's not about protecting investors? And again, that was in 2013 when that was written. Well, here's what Attorney Deaton had to say. And again, he references MF Global and Gary Gensler being chair of the CFTC in this the first tweet in this thread. He says, Attorney Deaton says, "First, it was MF Global as chairman of the CFTC. Remember, he claimed he couldn't access his work email from phone. Yep, he actually testified under oath to that. Now, as chairman of the SEC, crypto contagion has occurred with FTX and SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, etc." And I'll pause and note, he's not kidding there. He didn't know how to couldn't access his work email from home. It's just the things that this guy, like, are we to be taking this serious? Like, because Gary Gensler, I don't think he's a good person, but I do think he's like either a genius or close to it. Like in terms of actual intelligence, that doesn't make for a good person necessarily. Doesn't, and wisdom and intelligence are two different things on top of that. But no, he's incredibly intelligent. But he couldn't figure that out, right? Couldn't figure that part. Okay. And then Attorney Deaton says, "Let me be clear. SBF is a con man and a criminal. That's not Gary's doing, nor is it his fault. But look where Gensler placed all his energy. He doubled the SEC staff for crypto enforcement and focused on non-fraud cases like Library, Ripple, Dragon Chain, BlockFi, etc. Library raised a few $100,000, and we all know the truth. Library credits, that's LBC token, wasn't creating systemic risk to financial markets. I met Anthony Scaramucci's professional crypto trader, and when I brought up LBC, he said, "What's that? I've never heard of it." Gensler cut a video bragging about holding Kim Kardashian responsible for taking $250,000 for a post that ended with #ad. Yes, and so I'll pause to note that. And that's why that whole thing against Kim Kardashian just seemed bizarre to me. People are allowed, like, again, I'm personally against promoting cryptocurrencies for money. You know, that's why I said as companies had approached me over the years, I've turned down all of them. And but if somebody's going to do that and they're admitting that, you know, it's an advertisement, you're really, Gensler, you're going to go after Kim Kardashian? That's just because she's Kim Kardashian, and it'll get you some publicity. Was that the right thing to do? Well, again, I think it's silly to be taking money to promote coins like that, but that in and of itself doesn't strike me as illegal. You know, if you're being forthright about it, but is what it is, and it was easier for Kim Kardashian to just settle, and I understand that. But that's what he's focusing on, and then FTX just right under his nose. So, you know, billions of dollars lost because of FTX right under your nose, but you protected us from a Kim Kardashian tweet. So there you go. And then Attorney Deaton says, he raced to CNBC to be interviewed by Andrew Ross Sorkin within hours of the Kim Kardashian announcement. Library raised a few $100,000 trying to compete with YouTube. Gensler does what Gensler always does. He makes it about him and his personal agenda. He has met with Vanguard more than 7 times. Vanguard manages Gary's personal fortune, which, by the way, I'll note is over $100 million. He threatened to sue Coinbase and Brian Armstrong over a 4% lend product, while offshore entities promised 10 to 20% yield. He refused to work with U.S. companies like Coinbase, Kraken, etc., while possibly cutting deals with the biggest fraudster of all time. First MF Global, and now this. Gensler, at best, is incompetent. At worst, he is corrupt. Either way, he must go. Golf clap for Attorney Deaton, everybody. Spot on per usual. And I think it's corruption. I think he's corrupt. I don't think he's operating in good faith. I really don't. I think Gary's doing what Gary wants to do. I think he's too smart. Oh, man. Crazy stuff. The life of Kim Jong Gensler, folks. It's disgusting to me, though, because look, I'm fine when you go after the actual Ponzi. Like, I'll support when they do go after the actual corruption cases, and it's not that they do none of that, but look at what the core focus is. Ugh, really burns my biscuits, folks. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Family Sedan.